Welcome to Truth Report. I'm Alex Truth, and tonight we are covering what may be the most consequential week in Middle Eastern geopolitics since the 2003 invasion of Iraq. The United States and Israel are actively bombing Iran, assassinating its military leadership, and a senior White House official just casually confirmed that Israel has nuclear weapons on a podcast. A podcast. Let that sink in. We have 5 stories tonight that, when you connect them, paint a picture of a regional order being deliberately torn apart. Maya, let's get into it.
Let's start with the story that puts a human face on all of this. Middle East Eye is reporting on Eid celebrations across the region, and the images are devastating. Families are trying to observe one of the holiest periods in the Islamic calendar while bombs are falling on Iran, while fuel shortages are spreading across South Asia, while the entire region holds its breath wondering if this war will engulf them next. These aren't just photographs. They're evidence of what happens when powerful nations wage war with total disregard for civilian populations and their most sacred traditions.
And what strikes me about that Middle East Eye coverage is the contrast it forces you to confront. Children in their Eid clothes, families gathering for prayers, markets trying to function, all of it happening under the shadow of a war that none of these people asked for. The mainstream Western media loves to cover wars as strategic chess matches, as Pentagon briefing room abstractions. But Eid under bombardment? That tells you what this war actually looks like at ground level. It tells you who is really paying the price, and it is not the decision-makers in Washington or Tel Aviv.
That's exactly right. And the timing is not accidental, Alex. Launching intensified military operations during Eid is a statement in itself. Whether or not the timing was deliberately chosen to coincide with the holiday, the failure to even pause operations during a period of religious significance for nearly 2 billion people worldwide tells you everything about how this war's architects view the populations they're affecting. Compare that to historical precedents. Even during World War I, there were Christmas truces. The message here is clear: these lives and these traditions simply do not factor into the calculus.
Now let's move to the story that should be dominating every front page in the world but isn't. Al Jazeera is reporting that Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has confirmed that their spokesman, Ali Mohammad Naini, was killed in what the IRGC is calling a joint US-Israeli attack. This is not a battlefield casualty. This is a targeted assassination of a senior Iranian military figure. And it's part of what Al Jazeera describes as an ongoing assassination campaign against Iran's leadership. Let me say that again, an assassination campaign. That is the language being used.
And we need to be very precise about what this means legally and strategically. The United States and Israel are conducting what amounts to a decapitation strategy against a sovereign nation's military command structure. This is not a declared war authorized by Congress. There has been no UN Security Council resolution. Under international law, the targeted killing of military officials of a country you are not formally at war with is an act of aggression. Period. The fact that this is being carried out jointly by the US and Israel makes both nations complicit, and it sets a precedent that should terrify every country on earth.
And here's what the mainstream coverage consistently fails to address: what is the strategic endgame? You assassinate Iran's military spokespeople, you bomb their infrastructure, and then what? We saw this playbook in Iraq, in Libya, in Syria. You destroy the existing power structure and you get chaos. You get power vacuums filled by the most extreme elements. The architects of this war learned nothing from 20 years of catastrophic failure in the Middle East, or worse, they learned exactly the wrong lessons and they don't care because instability itself serves their interests.
Which brings us to what might be the most alarming story of the week. The South China Morning Post is reporting on an opinion piece that makes an argument Western media won't touch, that the world may now need an Iranian nuclear bomb as a deterrent. And the reason this argument is gaining traction is because of what David Sacks, the White House's AI and crypto czar of all people, said on the All In podcast. He openly acknowledged that Israel possesses nuclear warheads and suggested they could be deployed in this war. Alex, the nuclear taboo that has held since Nagasaki in 1945 is being casually eroded on a Tech Bro podcast.
Let's break down how extraordinary that Sacks' statement is. For decades, the United States has maintained a policy of deliberate ambiguity about Israel's nuclear arsenal. Israel has never officially confirmed it possesses nuclear weapons, even though every intelligence agency on the planet knows they do. This ambiguity was a diplomatic fiction that served a purpose: it prevented a nuclear arms race in the Middle East. And David Sacks just blew that fiction apart in a casual conversation. Not in a congressional hearing. Not in a diplomatic cable. On a podcast hosted by venture capitalists.
And the implications cascade from there. If a senior White House official is publicly floating the possibility that Israel could use nuclear weapons against Iran, you have just given every nation in the Middle East the strongest possible argument for developing their own nuclear deterrent. Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Egypt, they've all had nuclear ambitions at various points. The South China Morning Post piece argues that Iran developing a nuclear weapon might actually be the only thing that prevents a nuclear strike against it. That is the logic of deterrence, and the United States just validated it by making the threat explicit.